Welcome, nerds, to another episode of the Nerd Rundown podcast, where we cover the latest in the nerd world of movies, TV, and more. I'm your host, Darren Simple, and with me today is my co-pilot, Eric Hare.
Hello.
Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening in. We appreciate it. Our channel is growing like crazy, and we just are ecstatic about that. So thank you. You can find us on social media and YouTube at the Nerd Rundown, and you can listen to our podcasts on all the major podcast services. We have a fantastic show for you today, where we'll cover the latest on a big rundown today. And then with the start of the NFL football season, we thought it'd be a great time to rank our favorite sports movies. We'll cap it off at the end with a great nerd question from the Big Morg 3000. So let's get started on this big rundown, Eric. First on the rundown, a personal TV show of ours, or a personal favorite TV show of ours.
Absolutely.
Finally getting a trailer for season 4 of Yellowstone.
Yes. Woohoo!
It was about 1 minute long, I feel like. Right. Like a minute, 14 seconds, but a lot of quick flashes, didn't give a lot of plot.
I was going to say, it really just kind of showed like a lot of stuff that happened in the season finale and not much from what's coming up.
Right. And I feel like I saw a picture, like a quick flash of Kevin Costner's John Dutton. But this is a show that when it came on, 4 years ago, really took the world by surprise and storm. And it's an incredible show. We love it. You named your dog after a character on it. Yeah. It's Kevin Costner in like peak form.
Absolutely. Yep.
And the supporting cast is amazing. It's a show we haven't talked about. It's not, a nerdy show by any means, but we'll talk about this a little later. This isn't a podcast just for superheroes. So this is a podcast for movies, TV, anything that we want to put in there that you can nerd out about. So Yellowstone is definitely one of those shows that we will nerd out about. When it's on and when we talk about it, and I love this show. I cannot wait for season 4. What do you think is going to happen in season 4?
Dude, I don't even know. Like I know. You can't. After that finale, the way it ended, like I mean, you're like basically killing off 3 of your main characters.
If you're not caught up, you're probably going to get into some spoilers. So
I'm not gonna dive in, but the belief is that you're killing off 3 of your main characters, and so it's like whoa, that's pretty crazy. So I don't know. We're gonna see what happens. I have a feeling. Well, I can tell you this: there's going to be some major rip action coming up in this, and I say. Bring on some more Rip action. Yeah,
he's a character you want to see like a man on TV,
right?
You want to see a man.
Yes.
Rip. What's Rip's last name? I don't
even think they even said. Rip Wheeler.
Rip Wheeler, but they like never say that. It's always just Rip. It's in fact, if we ever get another dog again, we're going to name it Rip.
Yeah.
We're actually going to name it Rip Riggins after a Friday Night Lights show, which ties into
Riggins. Yeah.
Talk about a little bit later, but Rip Riggins would be a great dog name. Anyway, Rip is he's a great character, and it looks like he's coming to save the day. So
yeah. You know, it's been a really great it's been a really great show to this point. I've really loved it. You know, Kevin Costner's great. Yeah. The whole cast really is great, and you just see how messed up this family really is. You know, the daughter Beth, the other Casey is the other brother, and then there's a third sibling, Jamie Dutton, who's played by a really fantastic actor, Wes Bentley, and they each have their own stuff going on. You know, you've got a whole bunch of cast of characters that live in the bunkhouse, you know, as far as the farm hands and stuff, the ranch hands. This one actor, Jefferson White, who plays Jimmy, his arc has just been tremendous. You know, just tremendous.
It might be 4 people dead with him.
That's true.
We don't know how he's doing from his. Yeah. It's separate from what happened, but without getting into spoilers, his fate is unknown. Yeah,
and then you've got a Native American chief who is in there, who's just amazing, and he has
Will Birmingham.
If Cole Hauser's Rip Wheeler is a badass, he's got a guy that works with him named Mo, who's right there with him. You know, I mean, he those two dudes by themselves are, they are really, really bad dudes. So I've loved Yellowstone. I'm going to continue to watch it because it's just great television. Brian Tyler's theme song from the very beginning of the show is
the music throughout the show.
It's so good.
The scenery, the cinematography, it's all incredible. The supporting cast that they've added in recent seasons. Last season they added Josh Holloway, who plays Sawyer on Lost.
Right.
Didn't really, it was kind of a mysterious character last season. I think that the events of the finale last season may have been part of his hand that he dealt, and we'll see how that plays out in season 4. We cannot wait. We talked about it before the show. There was somebody added as well last season. One of our favorite character actors, in Will Patton, was added to the cast. Could they have picked a better character actor to be added to the show? I don't think so.
I actually, when I saw the trailer this week, I kicked myself for, not that I'm going to go back on my thing that I said last week about Stanley Tucci as being one of the most underrated guys in Hollywood, but it's a coin flip for me between Will Patton, and I'll talk about him a little bit later also because he's in one of my picks. Will Patton is another one of those guys that you've seen him in a lot of different stuff, and he gives you a performance ever since, I think the first thing I remember seeing him in was with Kevin Costner in the No Way Out. Which was just a massive thriller, when it came out in the 80s. And so, and he was great. He was absolutely great in that movie. He's great in everything he does. So, this has got me pumped. I'm pissed that it's taking this long for them to go, because usually it premieres in June, and now I got to wait till November.
November 7th.
But the other nice thing is we are getting more Yellowstone. Like we are getting another series called 1883 or 1886 or something like that. That is the beginning of the Dutton family moving out from Texas to Montana and stuff. Right. So that's still further down the road, but we're going to get more of this Dutton universe, if you will. So
the Yellowstone Ranch, just give me more. I could watch it every week if you could. So cannot wait. November 7th.
Yep, stoked.
Next on the rundown, we have an announcement for a movie. Nothing more has come out other than the announced cast and somewhat of a story. Avengers stars Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson are teaming up for a 10th time, which that's basically why I wanted to put this in the rundown, because that's a record. More so even than Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter's 8 times. Yeah. But Chris Evans and ScarJo, this is the 10th time they've teamed up for a movie. It's called Ghosted. It's a romantic action comedy. It's supposed to be very much inspired by Romancing the Stone. Which is a
Kathleen Turner and Michael Douglas. Yep.
Personal favorite of ours and of our wives. But 10 times. That's pretty incredible. And what's really incredible is this will only be the second time where they're romantically involved out of those 10 times. So
interesting. Okay.
They're like best friends in real life, and what
was the first
really
one?
Great chemistry. The first one was called Phone Booth.
Oh, okay. All right. I don't know if I've seen that one.
The one where they were romantically involved, I don't know.
Well, their chemistry. So I mean, the chemistry, even non-romantic chemistry, the opening sequence to Captain America and the Winter Soldier, you know, where they just have this great banter and this great chemistry with one another, you know, where she's, you know, they're getting ready to drop into this drop zone, and she goes, you know, if you ask Claire, you know, whatever her name is from statistics, she'll probably say yes, you know, and he's like, that's why I don't ask, you know, and you know, I mean,
too busy.
Yeah, it's just like
perfect score.
Perfect score.
Perfect score. The Nanny Diaries, The Avengers, Captain America: Winter Soldier, Age of Ultron, Captain America: Civil War, Avengers: Infinity War, Captain Marvel, which was a post-credit scene. Still counts because they got paid for it.
All right.
And Avengers Endgame. But it's the Nanny Diaries where they were romantically involved. That's the only one.
Okay.
They were also reported to be teamed up and star in a reboot of Little Shop of Horrors remake, but that's kind of been put on the shelf due to COVID. Don't know if that's going to happen. But Ghosted, following, you know, some of the great action romantic comedies like Night and Day with Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't follow that path.
Yeah, that was pretty rough. It's pretty terrible.
Terrible. Sorry, Tom Cruise, but that was a terrible movie. But
they can't all be tens, buddy. You know, they can't all be tens.
Can't hit a home run every time up. Yeah. So very excited for some more. We haven't gotten a lot of great romantic action comedies, I'd say, in the 2000s. And so let's, you know, to segue to the next thing, you know, there's a lot of great stuff from the 80s and 90s that, you know, we're getting some nostalgia pieces about. Yeah. And then, you know, for the next piece in the rundown, you'll even talk about it more about that, but the return of the Rocketeer is in the works for Disney Plus.
Yes.
With David Oyelowo circling the lead role for that. So, him and his wife both leading the creative team on that too. So executive producing. Yep. I'm going to pass it off to you. I'm very excited for this. I was a big fan of the first Rocketeer movie. I would love to see more Rocketeer in our world. I love that like time frame that it takes place in. I think in the like late 30s. So.
Late 30s, early 40s. Yeah. I mean, what's not to love about the original Rocketeer? I mean, your whole cast is really, really fantastic. You know, from really top to bottom. You get Terry O'Quinn as Howard Hughes, who makes a great appearance. You know, and really is the creator of the rocket jetpack, you know, right. And then you get Timothy Dalton as your Nazi villain. Jennifer Connelly is your love interest, you know. So
her life, she's my love interest,
right? Yeah. So and the two, you know, kind of main guys, Billy Campbell as Cliff, and then Alan Arkin, again, another actor completely underrated, are just amazing. So the Rocketeer has a very special place in my heart, as well as just a great movie. James Horner's score is really, really great. Very, very memorable score. Really, really great one. So
Joe Johnston directed.
Yes.
Joe Johnston also directed the first Captain America movie.
Yes.
He also was on the creative team of the Indiana Jones movies. He's a George Lucas product, and so you see a lot of a lot of influence from Joe Johnson across the movie verse,
right,
in different movies. So
yeah,
gotta give him credit for that too.
Yeah, for sure. It's you know, it's a great story. It really is. It's a fun story. It's a fun that you can it's a fun movie you can watch with your kids, and you don't have to be nervous about, you know, what's going to happen. There's still some adult stuff in there that you can enjoy, but you can watch it with your kids. And I think one of the things, I had read a story earlier, and I'll just do a quick quote from it, where they talked to David Oyelowo about some stuff, and so his quote was basically, it was the fact that they were asking him why he was interested in kind of making these more family friendly films and themes, and why that resonated with him. And he said that it was the fact that I had loved films of this nature growing up, and I find myself scratching my head as to why we weren't making them more. Why were there no more E.T.s and the Goonies, Stand By Me, Gremlins, Willow, and The Never-Ending Story? You know, the truth is we do have them, but they're only being made by Pixar. You know, I would say Up and The Incredibles and now Soul. You know, there are some that have a little bit of that tone whereby you have both magic and meaning, reality and fantasy. You have heavier themes, but they can somehow be palatable to young kids and then relatable to grown-ups as well. But we just weren't making them in a way that I sort of had enough of them to show my kids and not have to go back to the 80s to kind of show my kids these kind of movies. So when I read that, I mean, I was already jazzed about them rebooting this series, and hoping to get to hear more stories of the Rocketeer, which is a comic book. You know, it is based on a comic book too. So it was very exciting. But then to kind of listen to him talk, I thought, you know, I feel that exact same way. I feel like there's a lot of movies out there that I love to show my kids. We've, you know, the Goonies, we've watched the Goonies, we've watched, Netflix had a recent one called Finding Ohana that was really great. But you really do have to go back to the 80s to kind of get these more family safe films that you can enjoy together, and you don't have to worry about, you know, the one F-bomb that every PG-13 movie is going to get, you know. And it's been really great to read that and to think, okay, somebody in Hollywood gets it, and to have this guy get it. He's an amazing actor. Like, he was great in Selma, in one of my favorite movies, Interstellar. He has a small role, but he turns in an amazing performance. You know, he just is a really, really great actor. So I think if he's behind it, if he and his wife are the creative team behind it, and if he's going to be acting in it, I'm in all the way. So,
well, and it's exciting news. It's for Disney Plus. Did they say if it's a TV show or if it's a movie?
I think it's going to be a series, is what it kind of made it sound like, but maybe
it wasn't
maybe not
very clear on that, right?
Yeah,
it was going to be stories, so that sounds like a series.
I guess they're saying it's a new film. So this earlier says Deadline says reveals that a new film titled The Return of the Rocketeer is in the works. So
it's right. Disney. Disney is the king of action adventure movies, which leads us to the next thing in our rundown. Jungle Cruise 2 is in the works for Disney.
Yes.
That is exciting news for us. We're big fans of the first Jungle Cruise. Disney is the king of action adventures.
Yes.
You got Pirates of the Caribbean, Jungle Cruise. Now I just drew a blank on some of them, but yeah. I mean, anyway, but it's that Return of the Rocketeer can start fitting into these action adventures that Disney does, and that we're big fans of. And the Jungle Cruise movie was phenomenal. I loved it.
Absolutely.
The Rock was so charismatic in it. Yep. And even more than him, Emily Blunt was. I watched it for her for more than one reason, but she was great. So I'd love to see more action adventure movies from Disney, like Jungle Cruise. So glad that that's getting greenlit for a sequel.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited about that too, because I really did. You know, when I saw that first trailer for Jungle Cruise, I was like, oh man, this is going to be great. You know, because it is this family fun adventures, you know, and I don't have to stress about, you know, is this going to have language or maybe something that my kids are not going to be able to watch and stuff. So yeah, and that's what we kind of rely on Disney for.
Bits in it, you know. I mean, Pirates is Penny's pretty scared of pirates. She can't watch it yet.
Yep.
I'm surprised she can watch Jungle Cruise. The guy's got a snake coming out of his
face.
Yeah. You know, it's got a little bit of that to it, but still not enough that it's gonna give it an R rating or anything, or even maybe if a PG-13 rating, it's not going to push the limits of that. So
right.
Love that. Very exciting news.
Yep.
On the other end of that spectrum of not exciting news, we've got some Tom Cruise movie news, as Top Gun 2 Maverick has been delayed once again. For
like the fourth time?
At least the fourth time. It may be even more than that. It's been now pushed to Memorial Day of 2022, which cool, great. That's a good movie to have on Memorial Day, but you know, this whole movie, going to the movies thing, it's frustrating that these things keep getting pushed off. Mission Impossible got moved to the fall of 2022. Yeah. So we have to wait a little bit longer for that series. Yeah. And it's unfortunate because I don't know if, you know, I know Delta's spreading across the world and it's bad, and you know, we've got a vaccine here in America. But it's you know, I don't know if there's going to be any difference from December to May. You know,
I think people are still I think people are still wrestling.
Ride, you know,
my personal opinion about it is that you know, even I think this shows how important the box office is to these big production houses. You know, because Paramount just launched their Paramount Plus streaming service. So if they were seeing success with these other films being released on these platforms and being able to make enough money off of them, then you would have seen it cross-released at the same time. So this tells me that Paramount is reading the tea leaves, that it needs theaters, it needs the box office, it needs that to pump these movies and get really the money back that they want to get out of it. So Top Gun is a tentpole, you know, franchise for them at this point. Now they've got a sequel, you know, they're gonna make that. And then Mission Impossible, of course, we're looking at number 7 on that one. So to me, that makes it seem like they really need it, you know. And I think over the next few weeks and months, people are going to come to the realization that COVID is not going anywhere. Like, even if you vaccinate everybody, it's going to continue to mutate like any other influenza, you know, not that it's an influenza virus, but like an influenza. And so we're just going to have to learn how to live with the consequences of this being in the world. And that just, you know, I
went to Shang-Chi yesterday, and the theater was packed. By the way, freaking amazing movie. Go see Shang-Chi. It is up there with the best of the MCU origin movies. Great kung fu. Loved it. Penny and I went, had a great time.
That's great.
And theater was packed, and I love seeing that. So
that's great.
It was good. So that's unfortunate news for us Tom Cruise fans. You know, James Bond's coming up. That's not going to move. You know, you've got so that's 2 of the biggest, you know, action franchises today. James Bond, Mission Impossible. One is staying put, one is moving. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I guess we've waited this long for Top Gun 2, so I might as well wait a little bit longer.
Right.
Last in the rundown is our trailer rundown. We like to do these trailer rundowns when we have a big week of trailers, and we had a big week of trailers. So first one, we got a final trailer for No Time to Die, speaking James Bond. Yep. God, I cannot wait for this movie. It looks sexy as hell. I mean, you want to talk about James Bond at its like peak of sexiness is Skyfall, I think. And this looks like it's right up there with Skyfall. It, you know, the feedback, we don't know a whole lot. I'm really glad they've kept the secrets safe of it, but some of the early positive reviews from it have come back really great, that this is going to be up there with Skyfall and Casino Royale. I'm really excited for it. I don't think we've ever gotten a James Bond franchise before that's been marketed as the end, and you know, like here's the conclusion to the story.
Right.
Whether that means 00 Bond, you know, James Bond, I guess the 007 moniker can be for anybody, but the James Bond character
could might be retiring. Yeah.
Or he could die. He could die. I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we know for certain that that this is the last film. You know, in this particular set, you know, you had Sean Connery as the original one, and then you got Lazenby did one, and then you had Roger Moore, who was James Bond for a long time, and then you had Timothy Dalton, who took over for 2 films, and then they had some pretty underrated issues.
Films too.
Oh my gosh, Living Daylights.
Very underrated Bond.
Living Daylights is one of my favorites. It absolutely is one of my favorites. There were some behind the scenes problems after that second film that there were some legal issues because the main producer passed away, and so there was a lot of wrestling as to who owned the rights to the series and all that stuff. And by the time they got that all hammered out, Timothy was too old to do the role. At least he felt he was too old to do the role. So we moved into Pierce Brosnan, who had a mixed bag of movies. You know,
I mean, I'll put GoldenEye up there with the best of them, but then it was just maybe a product of its time.
Yeah, you know, GoldenEye.
You know, the movies that got made after GoldenEye.
Yeah, you know.
Because that's what
GoldenEye was really great. It was really great. But then it went to the same place that Roger Moore had problems with, where it became too gimmicky, and you had like the tech and all that stuff. You know, and it just got weird. It got hokey.
Here's what Bond does very well is it shows that it's a product of its time. In any of the movies, like you know, Connery in the 60s, those are 60 movies, right? You know, the Dalton and Bond movies are 80s spy movies, great, underrated movies. 1995 for GoldenEye or 1996, I think, one of those two. Right. For GoldenEye was great, and then it started getting to the late 90s and the early 2000s when movies were weird.
They really weren't good. There weren't a lot of good.
There wasn't a lot of good stuff that came out of that time, and you know, that really affected those movies. I mean, they put Denise Richards as a nuclear rocket scientist or whatever it was. Yes. It's like, okay, there is a bit.
That's peak. That's peak. You know, when
suspension of disbelief here. So we're stretching it now. And then and the Daniel Craig movies were going on 15 years of Craig as Bond, which is hell of a run.
And they've all been really great.
Very good representation of the movies of his time. You know,
they went back to, especially with Casino Royale. You know, they really, and they did a great job. They went back to the core Bond stuff where they cut out all the gimmicky gadgets and all that stuff, and they went back to a pure spy thriller type action movie. Not a lot of CGI.
Jason Bourne fighting, you know, like he was good in that, but
not a lot of CGI, you know, it was all practical stunts, practical effects, and I think that's one of the things that I really appreciate about maybe the Mission Impossible movies and you know, and the Jason Bourne movies is for the most part they're all practical. You know, it's pretty spectacular stuff, and it's like, this is a great chase scene, you know, and these are great fights, and that's okay. I'm good with that because it's all wrapped in a really cool story that maybe has a little twist here and there, you know. So all in all, I'm excited for No Time to Die. I think they're introducing Lashana Lynch from Captain Marvel as a 00 of some sort, and she may be the new 007, but I'm not sure. We'll see how that goes. But it looks really great. It looks really great. I think Rami what's his last name from Rami Malek is the is the villain.
Rami Malek. Malek,
yeah. He looks really great as the villain.
He looks so well. And here's last piece on this. We'll move to the next one. This is the first time Bond has had a story that's gone over multiple movies.
Yes, yeah. I mean, the Spectre stuff was, back in the '60s, it kind of weaved through this, but you're right.
I mean, you had
right.
You had some of the same characters and stuff, but it was never necessarily tied together.
Yes,
and a certain thread across all movies.
You're right. Yep.
So I feel like they were going to do Spectre was supposed to be the conclusive story to it, and they didn't do a good job. So they were like, okay, we need to fix that.
Yep.
And really end it on a good note. Right. They got a great up and coming director for it, and like you said, Rami Malek looks very menacing. He looks scary as hell. So
yep, for sure.
So looking forward to that. That's coming out in October. Can't wait for it. Next one, another kind of new spy movie, or I guess not necessarily spy, but maybe in the same vein. Red Notice got a trailer finally this week.
Yes.
New Netflix movie with a great cast of Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot. Man,
oh my gosh, she looks amazing.
I could watch her paint the wall. So she is one of the most gorgeous people alive. And The Rock.
Actually, all three of them. I was gonna say all three of them are like the most beautiful people in the world. So
really,
like, hey, Ryan Reynolds. It's like, hey, bottle of wine and a back rub. I don't know what might happen. That's.
Sign me up.
Yeah,
that's all I gotta say.
I don't know. But
yeah, seriously, and The Rock looks like he's in peak action form. One thing I was surprised to see, I thought Ryan Reynolds was going to be more of like a kind of like a dorky guy to Dwayne Johnson's character, but it sounds like he can hold his own in his. Which is good because Ryan Reynolds can hold his own in the action movie world with The Rock. So I'm looking forward to that. It didn't give away like a whole storyline in it. It sounds like The Rock is an FBI agent, and it sounds like Ryan's a thief, and Gal Gadot is a thief, and there's the Ryan Reynolds The Rock needs Ryan Reynolds' thief expertise, so they team up to go after Gal Gadot, and then the rest is history, whatever you want to call it. So great trailer though. Looking forward to it.
It looked good. Yep.
The next one, Roland Emmerich, man.
the master of disaster porn.
What is this dude's problem, man? This guy just wants the world to end. Roland Emmerich's new movie Moonfall, starring Halle Berry. I mean, you sent this to me, and I was just like. I'm not. I don't know if I can watch. I mean, it's just like the moon is falling. Put it simply, and if you have any bit of science knowledge about how the moon works with the Earth, if that thing moves like a foot off of its axis, the world will die. Basically. So this movie is just like. You just want to, if you want to turn your brain off and watch the world end in a different way that's been shown before, this is your movie. So,
you will see. I mean, the cast looks okay. Halle Berry, Patrick Wilson, Michael Pena is in it. And then John Bradley, who I think is an up and coming guy.
Oh, yeah.
He's
Sam in Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. Yep. He's an up and coming actor. So I mean, we'll see what happens. It's like I said, it's disaster porn. I will watch it because I can never get enough of watching that stuff. Watching the world end in various ways is always fun, at least. And it's got Halle Berry, and so frankly, I'll watch her paint the wall also. So she's the age. She's an ageless wonder. Yeah,
she looks just the same as 30 years ago.
She looks, if not better. So Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know. It looks terrible, but I'll watch it.
It does. It looks. And maybe it fits into like a category of movies that Morgan asked.
Yes,
later on.
that's probably true. Yeah.
Maybe we'll tie it back to that.
Yeah.
And then last on the rundown, on the trailer rundown and on the rundown, The Wheel of Time gets a trailer. This is a giant book series. You know, with the success of Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, you know, these production companies want to go out and find their own Lord of the Rings, or find their own Game of Thrones. And The Wheel of Time has been talked about for years as why are they not doing Wheel of Time? Because it's one of the best-selling fantasy novels, novel series of all time. Yeah. I know a few people who are big fans of this show, and so it's the trailer. It did not. I mean, it didn't catch me.
Yeah, me either.
It's just I don't know. I felt like The Witcher. Like The Witcher is a successful show and good for them, but it just never really caught my interest. And so this one, maybe as more comes out, you know, it's got Rosamund Pike, who, you know, great actress there, and who knows how this is going to turn out, but it's on Amazon Prime, so you know they're putting the money into it. Yeah. Really, you know, we're a year away from the Lord of the Rings TV show on Amazon Prime, so it'll be interesting to see how they have those two shows, if they release them very far apart from each other, and you don't want them taking up each other's time, so it'll be interesting. Yeah,
I don't know. I felt the same way. Didn't really catch me, so we'll see.
It was it's a big thing in the nerd world, so I wanted to throw it in here. But if you are a fan of those books, please let us know and let us know why you like it, because I watched that and I was like, this doesn't look good. Yeah,
I don't know, and it's, you know, these I think it's perfect for long form series, you know, like the Game of Thrones. So I think it's perfect for that setup, that they do it like that instead of doing a feature film or anything like that, because you can't do that series justice if you're doing feature films. If you take a whole season to do a book, or a whole season to do 2 books or something, you know, then that's one thing. So we'll see how it goes. I'm interested to see it, you know. I'll see how it goes and see if it catches me, but for right now I'm a wait and see. Yep.
Hype level's at 0 for me, so we'll see.
Yeah.
So that's it for the rundown. Good stuff. Big week. Lots of news came out. Lots of trailers. Very excited for Yellowstone. Cannot wait. We've been waiting much longer than usual for that. So November 7th on that.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to get to our big segment. Before we get to our big segment, I want to talk about something real quick. One, this show, you know, the central theme of our show is, what kind of nerd are you? We're all nerds in our own way. Yep. And we can all nerd out about, you know, anything. Right. And that, you know, that could include superheroes. That could include 3D printing. What a great show that was last week, by the way. And then it could also include sports movies. And we definitely nerded out this week, put together a list for top sports movies. So this show isn't always going to cover, you know, the superhero stuff or the Lord of the Rings type stuff. We're a fan of movies, and we're a fan of great TV, and within that, we're going to talk about some of the great sports movies that have been made today. So I cannot wait to hear what your top 5 is. Yes. We're gonna run through our top 5. We're gonna do a little bit flip-floppy of our military episode, where we went through honorable mentions first and then our top 5. We're gonna do top 5 first, and then we're gonna mention our honorable mentions and see what didn't make the cut. But I'm gonna start off with my number 5. Yeah. And there was no scientific method to these, like with our trilogies.
Right. And as usual, we do not know what the other person's list is. So
no. And in fact, you're going to be very surprised on some of mine. So
okay. you're probably same here.
So number 5 for me, this is a very personal preference list, and you'll see why.
Okay.
Number 5 for me is the movie The Program, which stars James Caan as a coach of ECU.
Yes.
They never tell you what that means or what it's an acronym for, but yes. ECU, the college football program. I watched this movie growing up so many times because I played football growing up. I was a quarterback. I really liked Joe Kane as the quarterback.
Yes.
And it was a great story about, how college athletes can get into some serious trouble, and how they can overcome some of their backgrounds and come together as a football team. So it's got some of the best football action in any movie.
Right.
I would even say this might be my. I might have some of the best football. There's another movie on my list that has the best football action, but this has some of the best quarterback action. I'll say that.
Yeah.
And I love this movie dearly, dearly. If you haven't watched it, it's great. James Caan puts it in an incredible performance as the head coach.
He's great.
And I just love this movie so much. It's got too much of my childhood in it for me to leave it off.
Yeah.
And I watched it recently.
Which of the Connollys? Is it Joe Connolly that's in that one? Isn't it one of the Connolly guys, the quarterback? Shug. Isn't that and then Omar Epps is in it too, right? Omar Epps is the running back.
Running back.
And then the quarterback's Joe Connolly, isn't it, or something like that? Or who's the? Well,
his character's name is Joe Kane.
Joe Kane, but
he wasn't ever really in a whole lot. He did some TV stuff after this.
Yeah.
In the late '90s, like some Law and Order stuff, but not Halle Berry's in it.
Yeah. I remember she plays a reporter, right? She plays the reporter or something.
No, she plays like a. Not a mentor, but like a student, what's it called? Omar Epps' character needs help with school.
Oh, right, like a tutor. Yeah,
tutor. Yes.
Yep. Yeah. And David S. Ward did that one. So he's actually got a movie. He's more of a comedy guy, so that was interesting. Yeah. Great
movie though. And then
I was thinking. You're right. I was
Buffy
thinking
the Vampire Slayer's in it. What's her name?
Yeah. I see. Craig Schaefer is Joe Kane.
Craig Schaefer.
Craig
Schaefer,
okay. Yeah, I was thinking somebody else was the. I'm thinking of a different movie. So
it's got great music. It's got again. It's more about the football action in it. Is the best part about the movie, and I love it so much. So
I remember it. It was a great movie. I remember it. It was a really great movie, especially in the 90s. Yeah.
I watched it recently, and it's a 90s movie.
Yeah.
But I still have too much love for it to leave it off. So what do you got at your number 5?
So in my number 5 is a classic 80s movie. Also, Rocky IV. So I went with Rocky IV as my number 5 on the list. I think Sylvester Stallone had perfected the Rocky character at this particular point. It was coming to the end of the Cold War. You had Dolph Lundgren as the Russian, the Soviet boxer. You get the death of Apollo. Spoiler alert: the death of Apollo.
Throw in the towel.
Yeah, and it's just a great with that speech at the end. Where the two guys just slug it out and beat the crap out of each other. And then Stallone gives this really great monologue. It's just a great. It's a great boxing movie. There's some great boxing scenes in it.
It's like one of the more like motivational sports movies.
Yeah. The soundtrack is amazing to it. Yeah. So, and really I could have swapped 1, 3, and 4. All, it could have been any one of those 3 movies. 2 was okay. I think, 2's okay. If I'm ranking the top 4 Rockies, rumor has it they made a 5th one. I don't know. I didn't actually see it, but yeah.
What I love about number 2 though is the relationship. They really show the relationship between Mick and Rock, and it reminds me a lot of the relationship that Danny and Miyagi have in the second Karate Kid too.
Yep.
So anyway, okay. You're gonna laugh at my number 4, but I'm like I said, this is a very personal preference.
Yep.
Number 4 on my list is Days of Thunder.
Great movie.
Such a great movie.
Great cast. Yeah.
Cole Trickle, man. I love Cole Trickle. Robert Duvall is one of my all-time favorite actors. I don't know if I've ever seen him in a bad role.
Yep.
He's incredible as I just drew a blank on his name, but Nicole Kidman as the doctor who falls in love with Cole Trickle.
Yep.
You've got the guy. Boy, I'm like, my names right now are really out of my head, so you're gonna have to be looking it up.
I'm working. Yep, I'm working. Yep.
You've got holy cow, the guy from Step Brothers as
yeah. So John C. Reilly is Buck. Yep. So the cast is amazing because it really is. You get Nicole Kidman. Randy Quaid is the owner.
Quaid. Yes,
Michael Rooker is Rowdy.
Rowdy.
Yep. The initial villain of the movie. You know, he's the initial villain of the movie, but then they have this bond, like the
yeah, they learn to respect each other.
Yeah, and then you have another villain that pops up later on who is played by the amazing Cary Elwes. So
yes, Cary Elwes. What was his name in the movie though?
Russ Wheeler.
Russ Wheeler. Yeah. Total douchebag name.
Yeah, oh yes, he's awful. He's such
a douchebag.
Yeah,
and I mean, this movie has great racing scenes. It has great drama. It has the comedy in it is top-notch comedy for what it is.
Yep.
I love that scene where Randy Quaid is like, "That's my engine."
Yeah, right.
So I can do with it what I want.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like a 80. It's an 80s. You can't call it.
It's a Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer movie. So
yeah, totally. Yeah, it's totally that. It's just that like it's got an 80s action feel to it with NASCAR vibes.
Yep.
And again, Robert Duvall turns in a hell of a performance, and even Tom Cruise is like he's very subdued in this movie. He's not very Tom Cruisey, and
yes,
I could watch Days of Thunder whenever it's on. I could watch it every week. I'm
so glad you put this on your list because I gives me a chance to talk about it because it was in the top 15 for me and I just couldn't put it in the top other section. But
I love it too much.
But it is a great movie, and my list is very similar to yours. I think these are all movies. They may not be the best movie out there in this particular subject matter. So like if I go back to Rocky IV, everybody loves Rocky IV. But probably the one with Clint Eastwood and what's her name is probably a better film. As far as boxing movies are concerned, $1 Million Baby.
Oh,
like
Cinderella Man.
Cinderella Man, like much better boxing, like artistically boxing movies, better story. But these are movies that I've watched over and over and over and over again because they are great movies. So like my next one is.
Personal preference. That's why I stated in the beginning. These are personal preferences.
Right. So my number 4 is a Bill Paxton movie with Shia LaBeouf called The Greatest Game Ever Played. About the amateur golf guy, 20-year-old U.S. Open.
Totally forgot about this one.
U.S. Open, 1913 U.S. Open, where an amateur guy came out of nowhere and beat the Englishman Harry Barton. And it just it's amazing because the actors in it are really great. Shia LaBeouf turns in this amazing performance. He's a really,
kid.
Really,
he's like a 15-year-old kid in it, isn't he?
He's really he's 20. He's 20 years old, but and his dad he does look 15 in it. His dad Elias, played by Elias Koteas, which again is another character actor that a lot of people people, you'll once you see his
face,
you'll be like,
Black Hawk Down.
Yes, yeah.
The Irene guy. Yeah.
No, he's not in. He's in the Thin Red Line. He's been in a lot of stuff. Like you would know his face.
I'm gonna look him up right now.
If you saw him. I don't think he was in Black Hawk Down, but everybody else in Hollywood was. But every other male was in it. So you could pretty much throw those out there. And it's
Stephen Delane is in it.
Yeah. So just a great one. The guy who plays. He's got this caddy that goes with him. This little guy is the caddy. He's just amazing, and it's just all in all,
Casey Jones in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, it's just
that's who Elias.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just a great movie, and like I said, it's Bill Paxton directed it. It's a great family film. You can watch it. The guy's dad is an immigrant. And he believes that, if you just work hard and you do what you're supposed to do, you don't step out of line, and then Francis he's got this gift, he's got this skill, and for him to be able to win that tournament, and then ultimately, it really helps bring him and his dad together, at the end of the movie and stuff. So it's a great movie, and I've watched it so many times. It's just such
a good pick. I forget Stephen Delane is in that too. He's so good.
He really is.
I like it. I like that. I like these out of the box picks. And my number 3 is a bit of that too, and also staying in the golf world. But man, we've already talked about on this show, Kevin Costner. Yeah. Who you could probably just do a top 5 Kevin Costner sports movies.
Okay, I've got in my honorable mentions. It's all Kevin Costner.
He is the greatest sports movie actor of all time.
Right.
10 Cup. What's your 10 Cup moment? Everybody has that 10. That's like a saying that you have, and where you're gonna go until it's done, and until you complete what you wanted to do. 10 Cup is one of my just all-time favorite movies. Not only just sports movies, but I watch it more than my top 2 movies. I watch it pretty annually. I love this movie.
Great cast.
Kevin Costner is like peak charismatic Kevin Costner as this West Texas, driving range, old college pro golfer.
Yep.
Renee Russo is Renee Russo, and watch her paint the wall as well.
Beautiful as always. Yep.
Cheech Marin
is Romeo.
Comic genius in this movie.
He really is great.
Comic genius. Yeah. He is so freaking hilarious.
Yes. Yep.
As his caddy. And Don Johnson plays such a slimy bad guy in this movie.
He really does.
Only gets exposed at the end of the movie as the D-bag he is.
Yeah.
It's a feel-good movie. It's not one of those movies where you watch and you feel icky at all.
Not at all. Yeah.
Not at all. It's just one of those movies you love to watch because it entertains you all throughout the movie. And even his, the supporting cast that follows him around is really great.
Yes. Yeah. Some really great character actors in there. Yep.
Yeah. I just love this movie so damn much. It really was hard for me to put it, where do I put it? 4 or 3? Because Days of Thunder is like, but I think I love golf more than any sport. I had to put it at number 3 for me. And man, Kevin Costner's so good in it.
Yeah, and like you said at the beginning, the quotes, it's an infinitely quotable movie,
Infinite. Take the change and put it in your left pocket. We all had those chili dippers on the driving range. It's across the driving range, and you're like, who shot that? Who is it? Pros here, come on.
Yeah. The first time I met you, I knew I was done with strippers and
the lady doctor.
Yeah.
The lady doctor. Yeah, it's just very relatable movie. Like in so much. Just when he's like, you always play better when you're drunk, Roy, and he gets hammered for the U.S. Open. Like, that's his strategy to win the U.S. Open is to go get hammered the night before and he plays hungover. Yeah. So he's just like, it's everybody's been there where you're like, I got to get up and play 18 in the morning and. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's a great film, and Costner really is an extremely athletic guy, you know, and you really go back to like Dances with Wolves, you know, his horseback riding, and you know, we talk about Yellowstone, you know, he's on a horse a lot. The riding a horse is a very athletic thing, and so, you know, and then he does the baseball movies, and he does, you know, this movie, the golf movie. So he's got a really great swing. Yeah, you know, both in baseball. He took
lessons. Yeah, I know he like took lessons and became a scratch golfer for this movie.
Yeah, it's like, it sounds terrible.
Give me a lantern and I'll rub it. And my first wish is
right.
Can I take golf lessons to be a scratch golfer, to be in a movie? That's like dream come true right there.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you got for 3?
So number 3 for me is Rudy.
Okay.
So just from an inspirational perspective, it's just one of the most inspirational movies
of all time.
That's out there. You know, I mean, just taking a guy who just loves, you know, because all of us have this thing that we absolutely love, you know, and he loves Notre Dame football, you know, like his family family lives and breathes Notre Dame football.
When his dad like gets to go to the game and the joy on his face, I just got chills thinking about it because we've all been there in that like kind of moment where you finally get to see something that you love, you know, you get to go to a football game that you just are in love with the team for the first time or something along those lines.
And for him to see his son be out on that field, you know, and
I just got chills again. It's just
it's and Jerry Goldsmith's score is probably one of the best sports scores out there, you know, like I've listened to it.
I love that score so much.
I'll listen to it when I'm going to like play, you know, this is stupid, but like when I go play softball or something, sometimes if I need like to get amped up for something, like I'll listen to that score, you know, where and so Jerry Goldsmith's it's just the way it just builds up, you know, you know, and it just constantly builds you up, you know. And then the cast on there, Sean Astin, who just he's a great actor, you know, Jon Favreau as his buddy.
Love him. Jon Favreau's in that. I always forget that. Yeah.
Ned Beatty is his dad, and then the one who does it for me in this entire movie is Charles S. Dutton, who plays the groundskeeper there at the stadium. Is just
best slow clap of all time.
Oh my gosh, you know. He's so good. But you know, I think what gets me is, you know, you watch it and you think you see these guys. Initially, they're like, "Who is this guy?" You know, but then slowly he wins them over. You know, including
because he never gives up.
He never gives up. You know, and the other guys who are there because they're really talented. You know, they're all really talented guys, and they all have something that he doesn't really have. You know, which is that they're they've all got skills that he doesn't have, but he never stops. Like he never stops. He never quits, and he eventually gets that whole team's respect. Because of, you know, the fact that they recognize that he lives and breathes, and it's why they do that job, you know, and I think at the end of the film, when he finally
gets on the field,
oh man, and the crowd just goes absolutely crazy,
like,
you know.
I'm getting chills, like just again, like the third time, just because it's so. This movie was third on my. This is how hard this category is to rank, because this movie was third on my list right off the bat. early in the week when I was putting it together, and it didn't even make my honorable mentions, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
But it's such a good movie. I love it on every single level. It's one of those movies that you name a piece of that movie, cinematography, score, directing, acting, writing, everything, top notch.
Yeah, I mean Chelsea Ross, who I'll talk about a little bit later, and one of my picks is the coach. You know, and he's just he's such a great great actor. Totally different role from anything I'd seen him in before, because he always played such a goofy guy. But to see him in that head coach at Notre Dame role, you know, and just all in all, again, I base this off of movies that I've watched over and over and over again. Great football scenes, great football sequences. You know, this one I could have swapped out with a different football movie, and I didn't, and that was simply because of the inspirational value to this one that you know, I've watched it. But yeah, so
we'll see what that is. But next on my list is do you believe in miracles?
Yes.
Miracle, the hockey movie, the story of the USA's triumph over the Russian hockey team.
Kurt Russell, man.
Like, I'm getting a little emotional thinking about this movie because, I mean, Rudy's inspirational. It's that great underdog story,
right?
But Miracle is a true freaking story, and it's you know, about the USA being the underdog and triumphing and hockey. And I love hockey. Like, my three favorite sports are hockey, golf, and football, and it shows in my top three. And it was hard to not put this at number one, honestly. But it's just I love. So first of all, Kurt Russell is phenomenal in this movie. He nails Herb Brooks, the coach, just beautifully. The speech he gives before the game. If you ever need to like be inspired to do anything, watch that speech. Because he's so good in that role. And he nails that like Minnesotan accent so well. And then they cast a bunch of like unknowns for the hockey team, and you know, just like the
team. In real life.
Exactly.
You know, the team in real life was
they and when they finally hit their breakthrough, you know, like, who do you play for? And, you know, the whole movie they've been saying, I play for Boston University or blah, blah, blah. And when they finally are like, who do you play for? And he's like, Team USA. And it's just like, and so good. Miracle there's some really good hockey movies. Mystery Alaska is a really, really good movie. That
is a really great movie.
Miracle.
Slapshot.
I mean, and then there's, you know, there's some funny hockey movies. The Mighty Ducks is like an all-time favorite movie of mine.
Great movie,
And it didn't even make my honorable mention. So that's how good Miracle is and how much it means to me. That story is it's incredible. So how about you for number two?
Number two comes in at Major League. So
That's high. High praise.
Well, again,
well-deserved high praise. Well-deserved high praise. So these personal preference.
These last two are going to be movies that you're going to be like, what the hell? So, you know, like with Major League, Major League is my favorite baseball movie because I've watched it so many times. You know, and there's better. Again, there are better movies about baseball than this, and I have three of them in my honorable mentions, you know, that I could go with, but at the end of the day, Major League is the movie that I've watched the most out of any, you know, because it just is. I'll throw it on at night when I go to sleep, you know, because I've seen it so many times. The whole spring training, you know, from the very beginning where she walks in and she says, I want to help build a team to send us to Miami, you know, and the guy goes, well, some of these guys are furniture movers, you know, and it just like, and this is a David S. Ward movie also. So, you know, and this was more his bread and butter. He's more known for the comedy type stuff. And it is great. Tom Berenger, is amazing as Jake Taylor. Charlie Sheen, Ricky Vaughn, Corbin Burnson as Dorn. I love him. It's like at the end of the movie, they're like she put together this team so that we could help. So she could fire everybody and replace us with everybody else, and Corbin Burnson was, even me? It's like, yeah, Dorn, even you. So
Dorn's like the ultimate, like, dumb, ignorant.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's so good.
I mean, the whole cast, top to bottom. Rene Russo's, amazing. Dennis Haysbert as Pedro Serrano. Where the whole scene at the end, where he says, "I pray to you. I stick up for you."
When he hits his home run,
yes,
and you just watch that ball fly, into the stands.
Yep.
Man, it's so good.
Yeah, Wesley Snipes, as Willie Mays Hayes. It just.
Oh yeah, I forget that they had to.
The cast was just ridiculous, and then Bob Uecker as Harry Doyle.
The MVP of these movies.
He's so great.
The MVP so great. By far.
He's so great.
Yeah, outside.
It's just great. I mean, just top to bottom, from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie. I love that
you put this in there.
It's a great movie.
Just so you know, I have the Major League movies in my honorable mentions.
Yeah,
I had to put them as as a singular thing in my honorable mentions. So
yeah.
I get it. Like, I love those movies.
Yeah.
As far as enjoy like the enjoyment factor.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe what we're using to rank these.
Yeah. I think it's funny. None of these movies really are like award-winning movies. Like, none of them would be like even considered, except for maybe Rocky IV. I don't know, maybe Rocky. Well, I guess the first Rocky won an Oscar, but like not Rocky IV. But like, although The Greatest Game Ever Played probably should have been. I think that's a really good movie. But anyhow, yeah.
Honestly, my number one could have won something. This is maybe the more like cliche answer of any of them, but it's too good to not put at number one. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
Remember the Titans.
You just helped me. You helped me quite a bit, because now I don't have to. I can take it out of my honorable mentions section. So this is so great. So, yeah. Dude, I love this movie. I mean, how do you? Again, to go back to reiterate what you're saying, it's really hard to put together a top 5 list of sports movies, because you're leaving so much on the table. You
leave so much, and like I said, Rudy was number 3 at some point in the week for me, and that kept getting pushed down, and then it was from the beginning, this was my number 1, because Denzel Washington is so freaking good in this movie.
He's amazing.
Will Patton might be even better. Just
really.
I mean, it is. I just stabbed myself. It's the team, the players on the team. Mm-hmm. I mean, the strong side left side scene.
Where those two dudes really bond.
Yeah, they really capture the divide that's there. In the first part of the movie, they really capture that very well, and the way they come together throughout the camp, the football camp that they go to, and they come back, and they come back as friends, but they come back to a world that isn't united.
They are,
and it's really, really, they do a great job with capturing that animosity that people had at the time, and and really hatred of that. The hatred and the inspiration that team did to that town. They really. I've driven by that high school, and it's crazy to think that it's just thank God I didn't have to grow up in that time, because I can't imagine what that was like. I will never be able to know what it was like, and couldn't imagine what it'd be like. I just it's just one of those things.
My mom actually grew up in that area. I grew up in the Northern Virginia area, and my mom actually went to school during that time period, during that, in that exact area. So she lived, I think, in Leesburg, Sterling area of Virginia, and so she has some interesting stories about during that time period and all that. So it's
I'm sure
it's such a great, the scene where I think what's her name, Hayden Panettiere as Will Patton's daughter is so good in that. She's this little football genius. She loves football, she loves her daddy, and she loves her football. And then and to juxtapose that with Denzel Washington's daughter, who she's a little girl who plays with dolls, so she has zero interest in football and everything, and it's really kind of cute. But that scene with Will Patton where he, they're calling the game, blatantly calling the game, and he basically knows that he's giving up his chance to be in the Virginia Hall of Fame, and he yells at that referee to come over and says, what are you doing? And he says, you call this game fair. And then he says, he comes back to the guys on the sidelines and he says, you don't give up one more inch, he says, you make sure they remember the night they played the Titans, for the rest of their lives, and it's just like, it was like, oh man, it was so great. Such a great scene. Great. But I'm so glad you put this on the list because it really is great.
It's got, again, some of the greatest football action in a movie. Yep. Just the story alone is maybe the best story. So it was too hard not to put at number one, and it gave us, Ryan Gosling. So I can't complain about that either. So
for sure.
What do you got?
Well, so it's hard to. I have Vince Vaughn's Dodgeball as the as the number one sports movie for me. I really do. So I have I have watched this movie so many times, and again, I went off of
I love it.
My favorite sports movie.
The enjoyment factor, yeah.
It's just great, you have a villain in White Goodman who is just awesome.
Makes me bleed my own blood.
Just infinitely quotable. Yes, Vince Vaughn is so great. The whole cast is so great.
It really is. It's just one of those movies that I was like, you go into it and you're like, there's no way this movie is going to be a classic.
Right. Yeah.
And you come out and you're like, that was one of the best movies I've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, it just is. It's just great. Justin Long, I think it's Justin Long's first movie, and he was so great in it. Alan Tudyk as Steve the Pirate. Jason Bateman is and this was like Jason Bateman's first movie back from being like banished for some reason. I don't know, like he disappeared for Hank Azaria has a small role as the young Patches O'Houlihan,
that's right, yeah.
And then Rip Torn as Patches O'Houlihan. So
Rip Torn is so good in that.
So William Shatner's in it,
I forgot about that.
Chuck Norris. I mean, you can't. Gary Cole and Jason Bateman though as the commentators for ESPN 8, the Ocho. Oh my gosh.
The famous quote from those two is like, bold move.
It's a bold move.
That is like the lasting quote from that movie.
Yeah.
Because it's such a good one. Oh man, I'm glad you put that in there.
Yeah, and Lance Armstrong's cameo at the end, where he says,
I need to watch this movie because I don't remember that.
Oh man, Lance Armstrong shows up Vince is at the airport ready to fly back. He's quit the team, you know, all this stuff. And Lance goes, hey, man, aren't you supposed to be doing the tournament? He says, I'm a huge fan, you know. And he goes, yeah, I decided to quit. And Lance looks at him and goes, yeah, I thought about quitting too when I had brain and lung and testicular cancer all at the same time. But, you know, with the love and support of my friends, I got back on the bike and I won the Tour de France again. But, you know, I guess if you weren't quitting, then you wouldn't have anything to regret for the rest of your life. You know, thanks, Lance. And Vince Vaughn's deadpan. Oh yeah, he just is such a great deadpan comedy guy. You know, he just is so good. So, like I said, any movie that ends with Chuck Norris giving the thumbs up is great for me. So, I top to bottom, this movie is my favorite sports movie of all time. So, you know, I can never get tired of watching Justin Long just getting smashed with.
I give you credit. I give you credit for putting that. That takes some dodgeballs to
Thanks. Yeah.
To put it as your number one. So good job.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Let's list out our honorable mentions first.
Okay.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Honestly, this is in no particular order, but
yeah, same.
I've got my honorable mentions as Happy Gilmore, one of the great golf movies of all time, maybe the best Adam Sandler movie.
Yep.
A League of Their Own.
Yes.
Tom Hanks turns in one of the best performances of his career, maybe one of his more underrated performances.
Yep.
Gina Davis is fantastic in the lead role. I have the Rocky series now.
Sure.
That does include 5, which, you know, that's how good the first 4 are. But it also includes the Creed movies.
I was going to say I didn't throw the Creed in on mine too, but gosh, man, that first Creed movie was really great, really great.
Oh, and did you see the second one?
I have not. Yeah.
The second one is like Rocky 4. It like parallels that movie so well, and they're so good. So I included that as a series in my honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Like I said, Major League movies are in there. I might actually like Major League 2 a little more, but that's maybe because that's what I grew up with more so than the first one. But
right.
You could put on either one, and I'm going to be laser focused in. One
of my favorite quotes from that one is the Harry Doyle one, where he says something, and he goes. He says something and he looks over at Monty and he goes, Monty, and he goes, yeah, I heard that. And he goes, dynamite drop in, Monty. That broadcast school is really paying off. Dude, anytime somebody says something sometimes really stupid, I'll look at him and I'll go, dynamite drop in, Monty.
I love, and then even he does have to like take over after he passes out.
Right.
Base hit. Left field.
It's so great.
It's so good. Yeah. I mean, he is the MVP of those movies, or maybe the quiet MVP. But
yes.
Even in the second movie, you know, it's like almost the same movie. And,
yeah.
Maybe why we love Ted Lasso so much, because it's really somewhat of the same elements of that. But
yeah. Agreed.
I love Major League 2, and I just when he's listening to it at the end in the hospital bed, he's jumping up and nurse comes in and she goes, "Is everything okay?" He's like, "I love this shit." Like Downton Abbey or whatever is on the TV. I know it's not Downton Abbey. It's like some British BBC movie.
Right. Yeah.
And then last on my honorable mention is The Sandlot.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I know baseball is like America's pastime and is, you know, the classic sport, but it really has some of the best sports movies made. You know, it's hard not to. I mean, you could do a whole Kevin Costner sports movie episode. You could do a whole baseball sports movie episode. It's but The Sandlot, you know, growing up as a kid in the 90s, this movie, even though I didn't grow up in the 60s when this took place, it's still, you know, I played baseball with my neighbors. We would make our own bases, and we'd hit tennis balls or baseballs, whatever we had, into other people's yards. And it captures the essence of being a kid during the summer almost as well as any movie out there. So
yes, yeah.
The Sandlot is an all-time classic.
Yeah, and a great segue for me because it's number one on my you know, and I didn't necessarily put them in order, but that one is my first alternative.
It could have been in the top.
It could have easily gotten into the top 5, and it probably should have. You know, I just didn't know which one to bump. I really didn't because, but you're exactly right though, and one of mine on my honorable mentions is Moneyball. You know, and one of the themes running through the movie Moneyball is the romance of baseball, you know, and so that's really what puts baseball movies out there because baseball can be a very romantic sport, and I know I'm in love with the sport of baseball. I have been since I was a kid. You know, I used to, in the summertime, I'd watch the Cubs games and I'd listen to Harry Carey call Cubs games. I wasn't even a Cubs fan, but I would watch Cubs games on WGN in the summertime. My friends and I would play. Yeah, you know, and so same thing. Like all of our friends, you know, when we were older, we had backyard ball in our backyard, you know, where we would throw tennis balls and wiffle ball bats, and it was just great, man. I mean, it's such a wonderful time of my life, you know, and the scene at the end of Field of Dreams, which is another of mine, you know, where he says to his dad, "Hey, do you want to have a catch?" You know, I mean, that makes me choke up every single time. I mean, anybody who loves their dad, I think, and longs for that, you know, loves that relationship with their father, you know, and I absolutely love my dad, you know, and when you watch that movie and you see that scene, you know, where you can see he wants to have that with his dad, it's just hard not to love. So the Sandlot.
I should say, I love my dad too.
Yeah. So, well, it's hard not to love your dad. He's a great guy. So, he really is. So you know, the Sandlot, Moneyball is in there. I think it's a great movie. You know, it's an Aaron Sorkin film. So,
and Jonah Hill's so good in that.
Jonah Hill is really great.
Dramatic role, and he did such a great job in it.
He was really great, you know, and of course the rest of the cast. Chris Pratt does a great job as Hatterberg. You know, all in all, it's just a really great movie. A League of Their Own is also on my list. Bull Durham. I know Bull Durham was in it there too for a short time. Yep. So all your honorable mentions are baseball movies. Pretty much, with the exception of one. So okay. I do have a more of a dramatic film on there, and this is again I could have swapped out Rudy for this one, but I didn't simply because I love the inspirational part of. I love the delivery of the inspiration in Rudy more than I love it on Any Given Sunday. So you know, Any Given Sunday by Oliver Stone, with Al Pacino. I mean,
you like this movie, huh?
I really love. It's a dark movie. Like, it's a very dark movie. It's very tough to watch, you know, because it shows really the darker side of sports and the darker side of people. But man, that speech at the end by Al Pacino is like, so my gosh,
it really is. It's the highlight of the movie by far.
It is, you know, and it's
me. I wasn't a big fan of that movie.
Yeah, the football scenes are awesome. Like some of the best film football scenes, you know, and the cast top to bottom is dynamite, and there's some great performances by everybody. Jamie Foxx, LL Cool J, you know, James Woods, Dennis Quaid, Cameron Diaz, you know, just, I mean, hell,
I get it.
Lawrence Taylor's in it, you know, you can't go wrong with that. Jim Brown, you know, I mean, it just, the cast is amazing, and really Aaron Eckhart is in it. I
get it.
Yeah. So Rudy was just a better delivered football movie for me, you know, and so I kind of had Remember the Titans was on the list too. There is something, A League of Their Own. Those are all ones. So yeah,
I mean, there's again, this is, like I said, it's the hardest list we've had to do. So many things changed it throughout the week. I mean, I love The Replacements. I love Little Giants. You know,
yes, yeah, Little Giants. Yes, that's such a great movie.
That is a movie I've watched so many times.
I forgot about Little Giants. That's a great call. Yep.
Yeah, it's even movies like that. The annexation of Puerto Rico. So, it's put together. Everybody out to put together your own list, and you'll see how hard it is.
Yeah,
like it's near impossible. You could do a top 5 football movies, top 5. You know what? One thing I did realize is there's not a whole lot of great basketball movies, and that's
Hoosiers
okay with me. I mean, Hoosiers out there. Yeah, my favorite basketball movie is probably Space Jam in 1995. So there's some good ones, but there's just more baseball, more football, more golf. Talladega Nights, I mean, there's more NASCAR movies that are great than there are basketball. But this was a lot of fun. You came up with this from an idea from one of the American heroes out there who posted it on Twitter recently, and it blew up there on the internet. And then when you brought it to me about a week and a half ago, I was like, oh, we got to do that at some point soon, because I nerded out all week going through these. Yeah. And again, going back, we don't have to nerd out about superheroes or whatever comics. You can nerd out about Kevin Costner, the sports movies, seriously, because I love them so much. I love Days of Thunder, Tin Cup. Those are some great movies, and I'm just a fan of movies in general. So Rob O'Neill. Sports are the emotional, have such an emotional aspect to them that you can't not help love.
It's the spirit of competition, the spirit of competition in a way that nobody dies at the end, and so it's right. You have a winner, you have a loser.
I have cried a lot in sports movies.
Yeah.
I think The League of Their Own may have been the first movie I actually cried at. I was a little boy. I was really sad that they didn't win. I went into the bathroom and cried.
Yeah.
Never told anybody that before, so.
Oh, well, thanks for sharing with the internet. That's great. No,
it's out there.
I think Rob O'Neill posted a thing on his Twitter feed, and I was like, oh my gosh, we have to talk about this because it just was really, really great.
Rob O'Neill of
he did a small thing for this country. So
I'm like, how do I even put this into words? Like
he's a Navy SEAL. Hero. Yep, he's a Navy SEAL special operator, and when they went on a mission into Pakistan, he was the guy in the stack that came up. It could have been the guy in front of him, could have been the guy behind him. It wasn't. And Rob will be the first to tell you, there's nothing special about him, other than being a special operator. He was the guy who brought Osama bin Laden to justice. So he's a great American, and
salute to you, Rob O'Neill.
Yes, and then just another Twitter guy that I follow that you may find interesting is a guy named, I don't know what his name is, but he's got a channel called a Twitter handle called Super 70s Sports, and
I follow him. Yes,
and
you put me onto him.
Just downright hilarious, just absolutely, and he posts all kinds of stuff. One movie that didn't make my honorable mentions, but that I absolutely love is a movie with Sinbad in it, and about
unnecessary roughness.
Yes, unnecessary roughness.
I forget about that.
It's one of those movies that you're like, oh my gosh, and I remember the Super 70 Sports guy was talking about it. If you've got a college football team and it doesn't have these two guys on it, and it was Sinbad and what's his name?
The big guy.
Yeah.
I don't know, but when he knocks his face mask off.
Yes.
I remember watching the movie with my dad.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about our dads here. I remember watching that movie with my dad, and I remember that scene happening, and I will never forget my dad just cracking up at that scene and being like, knocked a dude's face mask off.
Yes.
Like, that's one of those moments in my life I'll never forget. So, unnecessary roughness.
Necessary roughness.
My honorable mentions.
It has to be. Yeah.
Kathy
Rob Schneider. Rob Schneider is the announcer. You know, it's a fumble, fumbleaya, fumblerooski.
Yeah. I'm gonna put that on my honorable mentions.
Yeah, and then the line where he says Robert Loggia plays the assistant coach. You know, and he looks at Sinbad at one point and goes. He's yelling at the whole team. He goes, I want you mean. I want you nasty. I want you eating red meat. You know, and Sinbad looks at him and goes, Andre does not eat. Or after he knocks him off the post, you know, he's laying on the ground and he looks down at him. He goes, Andre does not eat red meat because Andre is a vegetarian. You know, and Loggia looks at him and goes, eat whatever the hell you want. You know?
Yeah,
it's such a great cast, great
underrated movie, and like Kathy Ireland. I was gonna say Kathy Ireland. SI swimsuit cover model.
Jason Bateman is in there. So.
Oh yeah, jeez, I gotta watch that movie.
It's on the thing, just so you know.
It is.
It's on the thing. Yeah.
It's in the library.
It's in the library.
I'm watching that tonight. All right. Yeah. Wrap it up. Thank you, Eric, for such a great topic. Let's answer Morgan Santos' question real quick because it's really like it's a really great question.
It is,
and it actually gave me quite a bit of thought this week. So, Big Morg 3000, part-time guest host, Big Morg 3000, Morgan Santos says, "What movie is your guilty pleasure and why?" I don't mean movies that are well liked, like Top Gun. Not a guilty pleasure movie.
I was going to say, it sounds like he's saying that's not a very good movie.
Yeah, exactly.
I know he would never say anything like that.
Right. And he's not here to defend himself, so we won't bash him too much.
Right, yeah.
I'm talking about or this is what also Morgan is saying. He's saying, I'm talking about movies that are not good, but you can't help but love it for some reason, or it's something people pick on you about. Okay, so again, Morgan, Top Gun is a freaking amazing movie.
Yeah.
And I'll defend it to my death.
Yeah.
So, again,
It sounds like if you don't like Top Gun, it sounds like you don't like America, Morgan. Because, you know.
Are you not American?
Are you not an American? Or what's the. All right. Anyhow.
Yeah, I could nosedive real fast.
Yeah.
You came up with your answer really fast on this.
Super
so I'm going to let you tell you or you go first on your answer.
Sure. Super easy. Starship Troopers. Terrible movie. Awful movie. Paul Verhoeven stars Casper Van Dien as Johnny Rico. Denise Richards, Jake Busey's in it, Neil Patrick Harris, Clancy Brown, who plays Sergeant Zim, Michael Ironside is in it. So, you know, all in all, from a cast perspective, pretty great cast. I love this book. I read this book like probably once every year or two. It's a great book. Robert Heinlein. Horrific movie. Just a horrific movie. The only saving grace from this entire movie is
it's so bad it's good.
Is Basil Polidaris's his score is really good. It's got a really good score to it. But other than that, it's a terrible movie. The special effects are awful. They don't hold up very well.
It's overacted. It's so
overacted.
It's so bad. It's good.
And this the whole
adult themes in it too. I was actually very
well. That part doesn't bother me too much, but the propaganda stuff that's weaved through it, and it just is. It's a stupid movie. It's an absolutely stupid movie.
Yeah, it's so bad.
But
it's good.
Every time it's on, I watch it because I'm like, it's
your guilty pleasure.
It is.
And I get it. When you said it, I was like, oh, that's a good one. That is a really good one.
Yep.
I have to give a shout out to my sister-in-law, Carrie Erickson, who I asked this. She right off the bat was like, Big Trouble in Little China, and
yes.
I was like, oh, that's a good one. And she also has a guilty pleasure for the movie Battleship, which I cannot. Oh, that's a terrible movie. Anyway, I thought that was really funny that she right off the bat, she loves Big Trouble in Little China.
I love Big Trouble in Little China too. That's
I do
great
too.
movie.
I don't think it's a bad movie though, so it's like I can't put it as a guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
But I thought I narrowed it down to more of a genre for me because Steven Seagal movies are my guilty pleasure. I freaking love Steven Seagal movies. Hard to Kill is one of my all-time favorite movies, and it like I at the beginning of quarantine last year, I went through like a bit of a Steven Seagal marathon, thanks to you, because I was sick and I wasn't sure if I had COVID, so I was like in quarantine down here in my basement for 3 days, and I watched all the Steven Seagal movies that I could, and it was like, they suck. These are terrible. These are not as good as I remember, but man, I still loved every second of it while watching it. And you could even throw some of the Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Absolutely,
because I love Bloodsport, and Kickboxer. I watched those along with him.
Hard Target, all that stuff.
You know, I couldn't. Hard Target wasn't one that I could throw in there, but that was more 90s Jean-Claude. Time Cop I could throw in there.
Oh, Time Cop's actually a great movie. I think it could be another. That could be another. I think it'd be another guilty pleasure one for me. Because I do really enjoy that movie. But
the Seagal movies from the late 80s, the one where he fights the Jamaicans is actually, it's kind of scary. I've literally drawn a blank on all of his movies names, but Hard to Kill is my all-time favorite Seagal movie. Maybe right behind Under Siege. Under Siege is, I don't consider that like a classic Seagal movie.
Right, that's Die Hard on a Ship.
It's Die Hard on a Ship. Exactly. Exactly. Because there's not a lot of he doesn't do a lot of kung fu in that movie, or I don't know if you want to call it kung fu, but Above the Law is really great. Marked for Death, that's the one with the Jamaicans, and Out for Justice. Which is the one, Out for Justice is the one where what's that guy's name? Let me look it up real quick because it's gonna drive me nuts. William Forsythe. William Forsythe is the worst bad guy in that movie.
Oh, he's terrible.
He's so bad. It's just one of those. Jerry Orbach.
Jerry Orbach is awesome as usual.
And then it's got Gina Gershon, one of my all-time favorite crushes. So
well, I mean, think about that. Okay, so these are the first 5 movies of your career. Coming out of the gate. Above the Law, Hard to Kill, Marked for Death, Out for Justice, and Under Siege. Those are your first 5 movies that you made. They're all just, bombs. I mean, they're awesome. They're just great. They're great. They were awesome, killer movies. So
I mean, they're terrible, but
they're terrible. Yeah, they're absolutely terrible. But I loved them. I watched every one of them,
Yeah, and most people probably would say that they're terrible movies, but they're got a guilty pleasure for them. So
they're pretty awful.
Thank you, Morgan, for a really thoughtful or thought-provoking question, because that was
a
really
great
good.
Question. Yep, it's a great question.
With that, we'll wrap it up. Ran a little bit long today, but really hard not to run long when you have great topics. We had a big rundown. We had great topic. Thanks to you, Eric, on best sports movies. So send us your best sports movies and compare it to ours. Again, we ranked them off of just the enjoyment factor and the rewatchability factor. And let's see how you guys rank them, because I'd love to see what movies made your list. So
yeah, for sure. So
with that being said, great job today, Eric. I loved your list. I really commend you putting dodgeball as your number
dodgeball
one.
Number one, man.
No, I don't know how many people would do that. So
I'm an idiot, so it makes it easy. So
we're both big idiots.
Right.
We're just a couple of idiots talking about dude stuff.
That's right.
Love it. So again, thank you to everybody who's been watching and listening in. The show is really starting to get some good exposure. We had huge episode last week. Again, hats off to Bill and to Brett for bringing an awesome show to us. And can't wait to bring him back on again at some point and talk some dude stuff with him. So with that being said, thank you for watching and listening in. We'll see you next week on the Nerd Rundown.
See ya. Bye.